Today is the 24th annual 420 in Vancouver, and it happens all around the world, people gathering together to protest prohibition and celebrate cannabis, but the origins of April 20th are here in Vancouver. 420 will definitely be a protest as long as there's still stigma and discrimination against people for cannabis. Even if the federal government legalizes it, their legislation actually introduces tougher penalties. So everything that happens here today will still be illegal next year. That's why we have to keep protesting. Similar to how Gay Pride Parade still has a very activist message behind it because there are still issues that they're fighting for, but they get to celebrate and have fun too with their community and culture. We have to talk about stopping marijuana arrests and a cannabis amnesty. Police across Canada disproportionately target Black and Indigenous and marginalized people for marijuana arrests. Activists like us have always said that this is an unjust legislation, an unjust law. Cannabis legalization should be about protecting civil liberties, not about making big money on the stock market.
You got your joints! We're going to spark up all at the same time. We're going to count down. We're going to spark up at 4:20. It's 4:19 now. Let's start counting down. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy 420!
The Love Buds Love Cannon in effect. We'll bring that out around 10 or noon. Do you want to see the Love Cannon actually? Sure. Yeah. Let's bring it out just so you get a little preview. So you got the Love Buds Love Cannon. It's going to be blasting up. I brought about 5 or 10 pounds and I'm going to blast into the atmosphere. So this is the Love Kush Cannon. Take one at the 420. Load that thing. Fill it up. This is the Love Buds Love Cannon at the Cannabis 420 Love Please. Let's take one of the Love Cannon. We're going to fill it up and get maybe some busted up. But it's a little later.
Saturday morning and the post-420 cleanup continues at Sunset Beach, as does the debate over how big a mess was actually left behind.
There's still a lot of cigarette butts, bottles, broken glass, and bits of plastic.
It looks absolutely amazing down here. It's actually, I think, the best cleanup we've ever done at Sunset Beach. It looks pristine. We got just about every piece of garbage.
A record 40,000 people came out on Friday. Organizers say cleanup began at nightfall, continuing into the wee hours of the morning. They hired the Binners Project and enlisted volunteers.
This deck is very expensive to put down on the ground, and there's not even enough deck in town to do the whole field.
They also spent about $30,000 on decking, aiming to mitigate any serious damage. They dispute the park board's decision to close the area for up to 10 weeks while the lawn is rehabilitated.
We will actually pay for the reseeding of the grass as we did last year and make it look all better. They said it was going to take a long time last year, and it didn't take very long, and it was ready to go in a month. This year to be much less time than that. It's almost, I don't even think they should close it off because of how good it looks right now.
But board chair Stuart McKinnon disagrees.
You know, they were out after the event picking garbage, but they left it in a big pile in one spot. They didn't have a sanitation company come and take it. That came at the taxpayers' expense for a city crew to come in here at 1 o'clock in the morning and pick up the mountains of garbage.
McKinnon admits the decking made a difference, though he says water was pooling beneath it. Ultimately, the board is anxious to see 420 held elsewhere.
They call it a demonstration, they call it a protest, I call it a trade show. It's not about marijuana, it's about the appropriate use of our park space, and this really isn't an appropriate use.
420 is just like the Pride Parade. We're on the right side of history, just like the Pride Parade people were. And so we hope to one day be treated the way they are.
No word from the city on whether that will be the case once new cannabis legislation is in place. Nadia Stewart, Global News.
This is the Love Buds Love Cannon at the Cannabis 420 Love Bliss.
You see just about everything at 420. Amid the dozens of vendors selling a range of unchecked pot products, a man who's converted a leaf blower to burn marijuana.
Let's take one of the Love Cannon. We're going to fill it up and get it.
Preparations for the day-long protest/festival began well before sunrise, with a small group gathering to light up at 4:20 a.m.
There's lots of people that came to set up early so they could get a location. A
location not sanctioned by the Vancouver Park Board. Last year's smoking left the Sunset Beach field a muddy mess. This year, organizers say they've taken steps to save the grass.
This year we've spent $30,000 on this turf protecting material, and we're very confident this park is going to be just fine when we're all done here.
Dana Larsen adds that for the first time, organizers are offering to cover the cost for sanitation, engineering, and emergency management, but not policing. This morning, VPD were out ticketing cars illegally parked on Beach Avenue. Police will also be trying to prevent the sale of pot to minors, potentially a bigger concern this year, with 3 school districts out on a Pro-D Day. Larsen isn't worried.
Oh, that's the stuff I'm going to sell.
We make sure that everybody who rents a booth from us or reserves a booth space signs a code of conduct, which includes no sales to minors.
Even with pot legalization mere months away, the people behind 420 say this is not the final gathering. The event will blaze on for years to come.
420 will definitely be a protest as long as there's still stigma and discrimination against people for cannabis.
Jordan Armstrong, Global News.
Good afternoon. I'm Colleen Christie. Thanks for joining us. Well, the smoke may have cleared, but according to the park board, the cleanup following yesterday's annual 420 event will take weeks. Our Nadia Stewart is live at Sunset Beach, where a record number of people gathered yesterday. Nadia, how long does the park board say it's going to take to clean up?
Well, the park board says that it could take upwards of 10 weeks, and they're worried about the condition of the field. They say that it requires quite a bit of rehabilitation. We do see crews down here today. Of course, they're cleaning away, or hauling away, I should say, the temporary fences, the porta potties. The rehabilitation work has already begun. Crews, of course, cleaning up last night. Organizers with 420 tell us that they were also here until 4 o'clock this morning cleaning up. So certainly 2 sides to the story, but so far this morning we are hearing from the park board, and they say that the mess that was left behind is going to take a significant amount of time to clean up.
The field is in pretty rough shape, as it was last year. The weather wasn't as kind to us this year as it was last year, and so the field has some really bad parts to it. Unfortunately, because of the overuse of this year after year, this field can't take much more. We do our very best. We'll have to let this field dry now. Then the park staff will aerate it, top dress it, seed it, and fertilize it. The field will probably be closed for many weeks.
Record attendance at the 420 event this year. We have heard from the city. They're not saying too much, but around 6 o'clock tonight, if you tune in at the News Hour, we'll fill you in on their perspective on 420 this year. Back to you, Colleen.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Nadia.
A familiar fog will be hanging around downtown Vancouver this Friday, the haze of those 420 celebrations. And with the forecast calling for rain once again this year, there are concerns about Sunset Beach turning into a mud pit. Our Jeff Hastings has more on the event and what's being done to mitigate the damage. Jeff.
Yeah, Sophie, the Vancouver Park Board doesn't want the 420 protest and celebration to be held in this park or any other Vancouver park for that matter, but they know it's going to happen anyway.
It's a beautiful field. Saturday, it will be a mud pit.
The fear is that the flowers don't stand a chance, that the grass won't either when an anticipated 100,000 cannabis fans pass through Sunset Beach Park this Friday, 420.
This will be our 24th annual 420 event, and pretty much every one for the last 24 years has been the biggest one ever.
Why don't they have it somewhere where it's paved, and then they would create no damage?
Compare today to after last year's pro-pot protest and celebration. The park was part mud pit, closed off for weeks for reseeding.
Go ahead, go to town, but don't wreck the park.
And with looming legalization, some don't see the disruption and destruction as necessary.
I'm thinking it's maybe just a good reason to come out and smoke up with your buddies. I think that they've made their point and that maybe they should declare it a victory and move on.
The Vancouver Park Board won't permit the event, and with the wet forecast are especially worried about the aftermath, damage, and potential park closure.
I think myself it's more the inconvenience to the public, or perhaps I'd say even more than inconvenience. They're not able to use this park space, and it belongs to all of us.
This year, we've invested $30,000 in special Duradeck material to put down over the sections of the park that were most damaged last year.
420 paid back almost $7,000 last year. Costs exceeded $200,000, and the park board chair isn't confident taxpayers won't be left with the check again.
I imagine they will be footing the bill again. This is why we asked the 420 organizers not to come here, to find another location that's better for the city, better for the residents, and probably better for their organization.
We're told that each year's Vancouver 420 celebration is bigger than the one before. This year should be no exception, but next year, when 420 falls on a Saturday after legalization, should be the biggest one of them all. Back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Jeff.
Every year, our volunteer nonprofit team meets with the city and with the park board, Vancouver Police, Vancouver Fire, BC Ambulance, and everyone involved to make sure it's a safe event. The park board refuses to give us a permit, but they do ask that we pay for toilets, fencing, security, police radios, and this year $30,000 worth of flooring to protect the mud on the ground. So we're very pleased to be working so hard, but it definitely hurts to have nonstop discrimination and stigma and derogatory language used towards this event. They call it unsanctioned and trashy and all sorts of slang, which really we do an incredible job being very professional. Every year something new comes up. So when it was garbage, we hired a garbage team, and when it was mud, we've now covered the ground. We have first aid, we have paramedics, we have everybody needed to make this a successful, safe event. My biggest concern, of course, is always the weather, if it rains or not on us, but thankfully here we have everyone in very high spirits. We get treated more mainstream because marijuana is in the news every single day. So people are very happy to see this event be as professional as possible. We're not just a bunch of hippies hitting the bongo drums. It's really sophisticated, and families come out, and it's a peaceful, happy event that everyone is encouraged to come see. For those who don't know what 420 is about, or they don't understand what the cannabis culture is, please come down to the park today and check it out. You'll see it's a wide range of people who are all having a wonderful time.